and gentlemen, it's Spoilerin time. That means all the hard work we do talking about the streaming services and the set-top boxes and the laws and rules and regulations and practices on our show Cordkillers pays off with us getting to watch amazing stuff. And this is where we talk about it and decide what we like, what we didn't like, and spoil everything because we don't want to have a space where we can't say exactly what we think because, well, we don't want to say that because somebody hasn't seen it. That's why this is Spoilerin time. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the Sequester Zone. I'm pitching new names for this segment. This whole other show. The Sequestering. Sequester 5. The Squeakquel.
Sequelster. The sequel to Sequestering.
Yeah. All right. I got nothing.
No? All right. Now we'll try it again next time. Today we're going to go to our anthology show, Justified, episode 5 of season 4. We are, of course, going to continue talking about Westworld, episode 7 of the only season so far. And we are going to talk about the movie Arrival, which just arrived on screens in the United States this weekend. And it is a movie, which makes me think, Brian, we should talk about the movie draft.
Oh my gosh, the winter movie draft! It's happening! Tom's gonna win. Tom's gonna win. Tom's gonna
Brian's
win.
off to a decent start. 24 million for Arrival in his 700 million movies.
Yeah,
How
no.
many movies did he have again?
Okay, so here's the problem, Tom.
Yes,
Not
Brian.
only are you the odds-on favorite to win, but you're already showing it in that you paid $14 for Trolls. I paid $11 for The Arrival. You've made $93 million. I've made $24 million.
Okay, but that's all true. And if that's all there was to the story, I would heartily agree with you and say, yeah, I am going to troll your butt in this movie draft. But you've got 16 more movies, and I have two more.
Wait,
one of which is not going to make any money.
Is it really 16? I don't have 16 movies, do I?
I don't remember how many
I've got Arrival, Sing, Gold, Hidden Figures, Founder, Triple X, 50 Shades Darker, John Wick, Chapter
All right, so
2,
it's in
Logan.
double digits.
10, yeah. Hey, man, I don't have 16. It's only 10, Tom. Can you be realistic here?
I mean, so it puts in perspective, like, okay, you only got 24 million and you paid $11, but you also have 10 movies. If all 10 movies open at 24 million, that's like one movie opening at 240 million, which is what the other movie I have is going to be. Probably some of these are going to open more than 24 million.
I'll tell you what, looking at your lineup, though, your first movie is already the best buy in the draft at this point. You still have...
only got 5 movies out.
You still have Kidnapped Resident Evil. No, wait.
Oh, I forgot about Resident Evil.
Yeah, right? And then, oh, by the way, also Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I think you're going to do pretty good, Tom.
Kidnap's going to remove money from my total, is my guess.
Kidnap is going to be like somehow it costs money and Tom loses.
Resident Evil will put it back, and then all the rest of the money I'm going to make is Rogue One.
Meanwhile, Justin, of course, Doctor Strange reigns supreme for the Sorcerer Supreme, even though he wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme yet, reigns supreme in the box office, and it's not going to be enough. You know, it's kind of like, you know what, give him all the money in the world, Justin's still screwed.
Yeah, because what does he have left? La La Land, which may overperform, but that still doesn't mean 100 million probably. The Great Wall, Allied, Oscar buzz, but it's also out at the same time as Fantastic Beasts and Moana, so it's going to get flooded as well. And then Inferno.
I mean, he'll do fine, but he won't be
fine.
threatening you. I'll be surprised if his entire slate lives up just to Rogue One.
Yeah, honestly, I need to see Doctor Strange closer to 200 million at this point for him to feel like he's got a better shot.
Yeah. Speaking of which, man, I watched Doctor Strange a second time. It was so much fun. It's so good. Enjoyed it a lot. And we talked about that in the main show. There were other things I wanted to say, but I think I spoke about them in code, so I'm not going to bring that up again.
All right. This week, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is Christie's second movie. Don't forget she had Jack Reacher, 54 million. And then a week from now is that Thanksgiving apocalypse. Malongo's Moana, Mikey's Bad Santa 2, and Justin's Allied, all out at the same time.
Do you know I found out that a girl I dated in high school co-wrote Moana.
No kidding.
My high school sweetheart.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was just like, and I found out from John Scalzi's Twitter feed. Like, John Scalzi, who I follow on Twitter, mentions, hey, my friend so-and-so wrote this. And I was like, that's the girl I dated in high school. That was a weird moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel there?
Confusion.
It's confusion, right? It's not regret, but it's also like, huh.
I haven't told Bonnie yet because I know we're going to go see it. And, to Bonnie, it's just like, well, that's that other person who came before me.
Yeah, right. No, you don't want to prejudice her against it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Not that she would. But.
Yeah.
All right,
also, nobody tell Bonnie. Nobody mentioned this on Twitter. If Bonnie watches the show,
last thing you should have
that's
said,
fair
Brian.
game.
That was the very last thing you should have
But
said.
Hold on. I have to call Bonnie. No, let's talk about the movie that's out this week, Arrival. Ted Chiang wrote the story of your life, which is the title story in a collection of short stories that he put out. We read it for Sword and Laser, Veronica Belmont and I. So I went in knowing what was going to happen, or at least what happened in the story. And it turns out that the movie does play to that story fairly closely. So all the twists and turns were the same for the most part. And I went in with my wife, Eileen, who had never read the story. And so it was kind of fun to watch her react to those twists and turns. I was not expecting the movie to be very good. I went in knowing how complex the story is because it's told through a letter from the main character to her daughter. And that's how they reveal to you the relationship is through this letter that you slowly start to realize is not a letter to her dead daughter, but of course a letter to her daughter about to be born. And I was like, I don't know how they handle that in the movie. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. They handled it in a way that made sense. They handled it differently, but it worked for me. How did you feel, Brian?
First of all, before, so I don't get the tweets, I like this movie. It was a good movie. It's good movie. It was a good movie. It was a strange experience because despite having a super long day, Bonnie and I extended our babysitter hours and decided to go see it, on a lark. And then we're sitting there hanging out. We were the first waiting to get into the theater. And I walk in and then just hanging out. And in walks Bryce Castillo.
Hi, yeah.
And I'm like, shut up.
And we ended up at the same theater in the same showing for Arrival.
Second week in a row. Because we both ended up at Doctor Strange in the same theater on the other side of town.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh.
So at any rate, it was.
But you walked out of it. It's not like you hated the movie when we were done with it, but you were immediately like, I've seen this story before.
I liked the movie. I liked it a lot. I liked it less than if I was gambling. It didn't beat the spread. How about that? Like in my mind, I had a level of how much I was going to like this because it has themes I'm crazy about. One of my favorite classes I ever took at the University of Texas was an intro to linguistics class called Languages of Science Fiction. And we spent a full semester breaking down, like, here are the cop-outs. You can just use an existing language. Frank Herbert in Dune, he just took Arabic and because Dune's all an allegory about oil anyway. The spice is just oil. The Simpsons say, we're not speaking English, we're speaking Balarkalark, which just happens to have all the same words as English. There's like you learned about these cop-outs, and you learned about the importance of a Rosetta Stone and the difference between first contact and language exchanges with a living being versus a dead language, and all you have is these allegories to try to figure out what stuff means after the fact. Suffice to say, the subject matter was very, very interesting to me. And I thought this was going to be my favorite movie of the year. As I was watching, it's a fairly low budget feature. It's well executed, but part of the way they save money is, number one, by having 2/3 of the movie be in such shallow depth of field that you can't really see any of the sets or anything in the background.
Like the flashbacks.
Sure, right? Yeah. Which again, I thought aesthetically it was all very, very cool. And in fact, like, I liked the fact that, questions are more interesting than answers. And they created questions with moments like they go in, they have the meeting for the very first time, and then they just smash cut to Amy Adams gasping like, "Oh, did I screw everything up?" And Forrest Whitaker saying like, "No, you did better than the last guy." I also adored the fact that they didn't rely on the easy false dichotomy, the false binary, like the Contact thing where James Woods is all like, "Science be bad. I want a military this way." I really liked that. Having said, there's a small beef I have with the artistic nature of, it's unfortunate that their whole language is based on coffee cup stains. They're all just coffee cup stains, which would make sense if I ever saw a coffee cup, but instead I saw tentacles. And if I was going to see tentacles, I guess they evolve the ability to split their hands and cause their language to appear, but it seems like their language should look like something their tentacles ever would have created, but it doesn't. There's not a single circular part on their body with squishy things all of it's minor quibbles, right? The big problem is that I didn't get fooled by the magic trick. I looked at the wrong place at the wrong time because I had read the wrong books. A bunch of people saw that I tweeted out randomly on Friday, "Hey, it's a good book? Slaughterhouse-5. You should read Slaughterhouse-5. That's a good book." And because I'd read Slaughterhouse-5, in the first 5 minutes, when they say, "Story begins with your birth," or does it? I don't know. That seems like the thing that would be important later. And it was very reminiscent to the detached from time nature of Slaughterhouse-5, and because I'd read it, there was a good half of the movie lag where I'm like, well, it felt like they were clearly pointing to this future remembering thing that I've experienced in another narrative story. So I don't know if it is or not. So I couldn't really dial into the story until finally they brought me up to speed and be like, "And she's remembering the future." I was like, well, good, because you kind of said that at the beginning. So anyway, that was my only beef on it. I liked it in general. I think it's
But also, foreshadowing should do that.
Foreshadowing should
put all the blocks in place, and you just happen to have seen these blocks.
Correct. And again, I go back to Teller's letter. He said, "Put 2 and 2 in front of me, convince me it's 5, then reveal the truth 4." In this case, they put 2 and 2 in front of me. I'm like, "Hey, that's 4," and they're like, "Shh, not yet." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's 4. You clearly, So I don't know if I was a bad viewer or whatever, but just the magic trick didn't work, and I really wanted it to work.
Well, for me, it worked.
Good.
Yeah,
Great.
I was like, I definitely, once we were getting into the whole time, she can see memories from the future. I was like, okay, well, it was pretty conspicuous that but before all of this, she had a child, and we don't ever see the husband. So he either died or something, and he's very much not even there. So once we got into the time stuff, I was like, okay, so is it this guy? Because they've kind of got a thing going on, but also that could just be like a red herring or something. But I thought it was good. I liked the tension of the interaction of Amy Adams and the aliens, and as well as like that moment near the end where she's making that phone call to the Chinese general, while also doing this memory thing and trying to getting those words from him in the future. It's interesting, and I think it's kind of like a time travel movie in that it ought to be dealing with the same time travel problems that a time travel movie does, but because there was no like cognition necessarily being exchanged, it actually sort of flattened out some of the problems of like, well, how does this information travel across time?
You know what? You just made me realize the real reason that I wasn't fooled, and a way they might have fixed it. Well, no, actually, I don't know how they could have fixed it. It begins with, this super condensed story of this child's, birth, life, and death. And it's like, I'm like, wow, about 15, 16, I guess, 16 years. and Amy Adams looks exactly the same at the beginning and at the end of it, which seemed like lazy. Like it took me out of it because I'm like,
Sure. You
like,
would expect her to look different if this was a long time ago.
16 years. Like, look at me 16 years ago. I look pretty freaking different, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, man, are they just not trying? And then I was like, oh, what if that? Oh, and then that sent me down the path of doing it. So I don't know what they could have done better, but I liked it a lot. Yeah.
So I feel like we have 3 different takes, which is really interesting on this. So someone who didn't ever read the book but figured out the twist, someone who didn't read the book and did figure out the twist, and myself, I went in knowing exactly what was going to happen, or unless they had changed something particularly. Which, by the way, Strike It Rich reminds me that Louise's husband was not the same guy.
Oh, really?
In the book, Louise's husband was a financial advisor. And her daughter was more of grew up farther and became a financial advisor as well. So it's not exactly the same twist reveal. It's more about just the fact that she's talking about the future versus talking about the past. But all of that said, I still enjoyed the revelation of it. And I think all 3 of our viewpoints are 100% right. Like, if you don't know anything that's coming and you don't see it, then it's going to be fun. If you absolutely know it's coming and you're like, oh, okay, so that's where we're seeing this and you're watching it come together, that's fun. If you guess it and you're kind of hoping you're wrong so you can be surprised, then that's no fun at all, right?
Yeah, I guess that colors it. However, having said that, hot damn, man, the development of the aliens, the artistic design of them, the fact that they look like their tendrils, like their knuckles, these phalanges and stuff. I loved it. It was gorgeous and beautiful. I just part of the illusion didn't work for me, and hopefully the only people hearing this are people who have also already watched the movie. So I'm not taking anything away.
That would be spoiler time,
yeah,
folks. We warned you. The things that bugged me, one is that while the written language does look and maybe Striker Rich can recall if this is true, it looks about the way it was described in the book. Having it described in the book was much cooler than seeing it, because the reason it was circular was because they have no conception of beginning and end because of their view of time. And so writing a sentence wouldn't make sense. You needed something that was fitting into their conception of the world. And it was described as being as if tentacles had written the circle. And that's why it has all these squiggly parts off it. So it didn't bug me quite as much as it sounds like it bugged you, Brian. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's all it is? Because coffee cup stains isn't bad. Like, it was like, oh, I kind of thought it would look cooler than that. Even though it was supposed to be circular. But what bugged me even more was the call to the general in China, where all she had to do was tell him quickly on the phone what his dying wife's words were, and that changes everything.
Oh, I didn't read that at all. I read that as her remembering in the future that the first thing she said is her dying, that she calls the private number. She and listening to him from the future, remembering the first words out of her mouth are his wife's dying words, and then the rest of it, because he keeps talking a long ass time. I assume
she gets the last of his words right before she hangs up, and they open the door.
No. But again, we yes to that. But I took that the words she said were not totally just the last thing his wife said. I think it was. I think those were the first words. Was
but she hadn't heard them yet.
She heard them from
them to him.
She heard them from him. Like he says, I remember you said the last words my wife said. John, that's racist. And then
then he leans in and whispers them to her.
Right.
And the way they cut the movie is he's still whispering before she hangs up.
Let me finish. What you
well,
don't?
I'm still finishing my thing too.
Okay. All right. Fine. Go ahead.
But that's pretty much it. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, yes to all of that. He says, he reminds her, like you said, the last words my wife said, don't forget to turn off the iron. And then you said, it's not a weapon, it's a tool. If you do this, we work together.
I don't remember that.
Again,
Yeah, he says that before he gives the message. He's like, you are the only person who has ever changed my mind, and I won't forget the thing that you said to me. So I feel
I
like
just assumed that in that, like, and again, all you see in the movie is a quiet murmuring of lips. I assumed that the murmuring of lips was more than just Rosebud, and instead was Rosebud, comma, also call off your troops. Also, I don't know how to speak Chinese. I'm remembering you from the future. I'll bet that you also have experienced, as you learn their language, that you could transcend time and space.
What if the dying...
That would all make sense to me, but it's not the way they depicted it. They kept cutting, showing him still saying, my wife's last words were, and she's listening, and then...
Well, actually, what they keep cutting, every time they cut, like a million years passed as well. We already know that a cut does not represent.
But it's her remembering. It's implying that it's her remembering in that real time, like, oh, this is what he's saying in the future.
Sure, but she gets like, okay, one of two possibilities is true. Either the last thing that the wife said when she died was 4 paragraphs long, or what she's saying on the telephone is more than just the last thing his wife said, because that is a long ass scene.
No,
and I think
it's like
they do a good
15
job.
seconds.
No,
But she's only talking once she's in the clean room. Because she was on the phone trying to just get him to pick up the phone during that whole chase scene.
Okay. Hey, man.
Anyway,
I'm just
that's
talking
one
about
thing that bugged me
what
the
my
most.
experience was like. And it looked to me like it was a lot more than just the last words she said.
Well, it could also be that the wife's last words were, something about peace, or like
Right.
the words
Well,
actually had meaning.
You know what takes less than 15 seconds? Rosebud. Your wife wants you to know that you should not shut down communication. Bye. Click. Less than 15 seconds does the same thing.
Sure. No, all of what you're saying is true, Brian. All I'm saying is that scene did not play for me. That scene felt like a cop-out of we're gonna play with the time travel part and play on your emotions with the dying word.
You realize our argument is
You guys
like,
are now saying
no,
the same thing.
you were disappointed for the wrong reason than from what I was disappointed about.
Yeah. And that's all I'm saying is like I just didn't buy that scene, but I bought the other stuff that didn't play for you. So yeah, your mileage may vary. And at the end of the day, we're talking about this because it's more interesting to talk about the things that bugged us and the differences than to all of us agree about the things that we thought were beautiful and amazing about it.
Yeah, no, the whole thing was beautiful and amazing, and you should definitely watch it. And I swear to God, if you write me on Twitter and accuse me of not finding it beautiful and amazing, then you're everything wrong with the world.
Well, and again, hopefully they will have already watched this because they're watching Spoilerin time.
Yes, okay.
Agreed.
Look, we're going down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
But
hold on. CRBC Killer in the chat room this very moment. I like this spoilering time because I have not seen the movie, and all of this is so confusing that I would need to see it to know what you're talking about.
So, let me just say one legitimate sideways note. I think on balance everything was perfect about the movie, except for it did feel a little force rushed with and naturally somebody tries to blow up the aliens, and now it's time for that scene. Without any kind of.
You know what? That did seem a little bit force rushed to me too, and it goes to my final point about the entire thing is. If you liked this movie, like Brian, I think you're exactly the person I would say this to. And I was thinking this before we even talked. If you like this movie, but you had a few problems with the way the story is constructed, I highly encourage you to read the novella or the short story, however you want to refer to it. Because I feel like Ted Chiang just does an amazing job at leading you through this story. And the fact that I was able to watch the movie and still enjoy it knowing the story, I think you'll still be able to read the short story and enjoy it quite a bit.
Oh, sure. I would kind of love. Do you think Penny at age 12 could handle like the audiobook version of this? Would that?
I think Penny could.
Yeah. Okay.
I,
All right.
I don't know if all 12-year-olds would, but from what I know of Penny, she totally could.
Okay, well, that might be a fun surprise I set up for her so she can show up to school bawling tomorrow. As she realizes
make
the
your kid
futility
cry,
of
Brian.
our
Just make your kid cry.
existence.
Yeah, and there's some other great short stories in that collection as well, so it's worth the effort.
Right on.
Let's get to Westworld. So everyone open your Imager links so that we can know who everyone is called. Although we do find that Imager link that was sent to us by James has a glaring omission.
Dude,
in fact,
this
let's
happened
start with
just in time. You said we're going to talk about Westworld. There's a knock at the door, and our official Cordkillers Westworld correspondent, Justin Robert Young, is now in studio.
Hey guys. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm here. I definitely haven't been sitting at the door for a bunch of minutes waiting for you guys to stop talking about the arrival.
Also playing that game of like, well, I don't want to be spoiled on the arrival, but also I have to listen for the word Westworld.
So I just have to basically just like lean in and like, yep, that doesn't sound like Westworld.
So let's start. We've got several emails to get to before we actually get to the episode. And one, as I was just mentioning, is points out a glaring omission in James' Imager link. Mike Stewart wrote in and said, I just noticed that Felix and Sylvester share names with well-known cartoon felines. Do you think curiosity will kill these two cats?
To which we ask, hey, Justin, who's Felix and who's Sylvester?
Oh no, those are the lab techs, right?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I did know that one.
I did not know their names.
Yeah, no, I do know that. I've heard that before. I think we're also realizing how on the nose some of Westworld's writing is, especially when it comes to the names and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Bernard Lowe being an anagram for Arnold, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just some of the dialogue leading up to the big reveal at the end of the episode.
Yeah. We've got a couple more emails here that aren't bearing particularly on this episode. Ralph wants to know if the hosts are made of organic matter. He asked this because when they died and are exposed to the elements, they will start to smell of rotting flesh and will attract flies, or are they made of inorganic matter and omit a smell to attract flies by design to increase the realness?
I had always assumed it was the latter because they come out of a milk bath. I figured that there's the milk goo that makes them, run for reals, but there's like a veneer of blood so that explosions and stuff are realistic or whatever.
Well, they get filled with blood, right? Because that's why they're white. They're white people.
White, yes.
And then they just they juiced them up,
But
and that's how they get the flesh
But
color.
meanwhile, like I'm sure there are scenes where it's like they're out and they kill a rattlesnake and then cook it and eat it or whatever. Like park guests, I would assume, there has to be
they
hunting
eat meals
adventures
with the guests.
Yeah,
or
right?
we start with the hosts, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, our robotic rattlesnakes are filled with delicious chicken.
Well, someone in the chat says it could be fake flies.
Yeah, I guess everything's fake, but at that point,
Yeah.
Because they make fake horses. We know that they make fake horses.
It's turtles all the way down.
They do.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
bison.
No, it's a great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that bison was just running around?
Yeah, it was.
Then we got Cappy, who's had the vibe since episode 2 or 3, where you see Maeve about to get scalped by the native, that this is a real life memory. That at some point, Anthony Hopkins mentions that we can even bring people back to life. My thought was that some of the first-gen hosts were implanted with the memories of real people.
Well, I mean, that kind of cuts to the core of where we're going with Bernard, right?
Yeah, actually.
If Bernard is Arnold, then did that son exist? Or is that a creation of Ford?
Okay, well, here, let's press pause on these thoughts and instead dive into this episode, because I think it taps into a problem that I have that's increasing with the show. But let me start with you, Tom. What did you think?
I was very, I don't want to say bored, because I'm never bored watching Westworld. But the first half of this episode, I was checking my watch a little bit. I was thinking about other things. It wasn't holding my attention. When we finally got to the reveal about Bernard, I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. I was sort of suspecting this. and I start to want to have other questions about Bernard be dealt with. And they don't really deal with them. And then they have Bernard turn into Robot Killer. And so I left this episode with mixed feelings. I like, in principle, that Bernard is a host. I already suspected that to be possible. And it starts to put into question a lot of other things about, well, who can be host, who knows their host, etc. I didn't really love the way they treated the reveal after the initial revelation. And I'm also sitting there still wondering about the Man in Black and that whole plot line, which has just been dropped for 2 episodes.
So, okay.
Well, no, one, right? I mean, I guess like there hasn't been a lot of mythology for the Man in Black in 2 episodes, but you know we
didn't get anything out of him last episode, did we?
Sure. Okay.
Well, there was the whole shoot up, but no, like, you know, why they're there or what is the maze.
Let me begin by making it very, very clear before anyone types @Schwood on Twitter and says a single goddamn thing. I like the show and I'm going to see it through and I'm very excited to see where they go.
Do we just have to start every
yes,
segment?
apparently.
Here, just go single up right there and just so we can time code link this. You just say, "Hi, my name is Brian Brushwood, and I really like Westworld, and anything I say is
things I've
just common constructive criticism."
All right, let's not go too far because I may talk myself out of this. So this episode made me realize, so something very strange and amazing happened. I went from last week saying, the show's great on set pieces. It's great on world building. It's good on story. It's weak on characters because I don't really know what anyone's motivations are. I don't know who to latch onto. The original Westworld movie was very, very simple. There are human beings in a park full of robots. The robots have a virus that are making them kill real human beings. I know who to attach to. Like human beings, I hope they escape from this terrible situation.
Yeah.
So far, we're 7 episodes in, and there does not appear to be anything malfunctioning in the park. Not a single human being has died in the park. Except for Teresa. Teresa's the first theoretically human casualty
that we've seen.
And that's not even the robots going sideways. That's a murder committed by that's the same as running her over with the bulldozer.
It also appears that all of the malfunctions are being deliberately introduced by
Ford, right?
Well, no. Well, by Ford and by the board. The board v. Ford.
Correct.
As we have it revealed that the man who went missing and was transmitting stuff was trying to offload information because the board was meddling.
So let me, Westworld, simple. Humans with crazy robots. I hope the humans escape. I know who to attach to. I know what to feel, and I'm along for the ride. Game of Thrones. Guy is in a prison cell. I hope he escapes. Arya wants revenge. I hope she gets revenge. Jamie wants to get all up in that sister taco. I hope he figures out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Those are simple, and I can follow, and I can understand their motivations for all those things. Right now, we've got 3 different worlds in Westworld. We have the game, which is difficult for me to feel any stakes for. William is playing the video game pretty good. He seems he unlocked Dolores. Congratulations. Also, none of this is real. You're playing a video game. I'm sitting on the couch watching somebody else play Grand Theft Auto. Really hard. And then they enter a set piece where a bunch of AIs fight a bunch of other AIs on a scripted event. I don't feel no human is threatened. No human is threatened in this. No people I care about, or nobody is real, right?
Dolores, theoretically.
Theoretically, she'll have to get reset and go out again, right?
But William is here. He is on this adventure. If Dolores would be dead for him.
Sure. Sure.
right?
Right.
And
right.
so we
it would
care
be a
about
real
that.
bummer of an ending of the game for William in that he would have failed one of the side quests.
To keep Dolores alive.
Correct.
And he would have to be doing it for Dolores
Correct.
as opposed to having Dolores.
I would be sad for William.
Yeah.
Or slightly disappointed
But he
for
doesn't
William.
really have a sense of what the stakes are for what she's trying to do.
Sure.
Nor do we really know what she's trying to do.
Also, is he even on a side quest? I thought we were off script at this point.
No,
Or is the train
it's very
a side
clear that
quest?
they unlocked some subquests. Because remember, Logan, his brother-in-law, is like, oh my God, you found the right guy to unlock one of the cool quests. So it's very clear we're still on a quest, right?
Because Dolores isn't supposed to be there. That's all I guess. I'm
Correct.
saying.
No, she's
off script.
improvising off script, right? There's only two things left. There's Maeve, which it is possible for me to be afraid of Maeve or excited for Maeve or whatever. If you show me reasons to feel any of these things, the way to show them to me is not to get her to convince the two dumbest techs in the world who just suddenly Chuck E. Cheese says, hey, I'm Chuck E. Cheese. I'm your god. And they're like, oh my gosh, well, normally I service this robot to play for the kids, but I guess Chuck E. Cheese, his face is on the pizzeria. Let's follow his rules. Chuck E. Cheese says, make me super smart and maniacal. Okie dokie, I press buttons. So I guess you're smart and maniacal now. I feel none of that. It's bad storytelling. And then you got what? The Man in Black, which at this point I'm running out of steam. We're 7 episodes in. I guess there's a maze. I don't know. I think I just talked myself out of loving this series. Maybe I don't love it as much as I thought I did.
But it's a TV show, right? It has to set up a lot of vectors and it has to play a long game.
Yeah, you know how you could do it? Do it like Battlestar Galactica. The very first episode after the miniseries is called 33 Minutes, and it's dead simple. In the first 3 minutes, you get every 33 minutes, these Cylons come.
They gotta jump.
And the humans are running away. I know everything I need to know, and they're instantly relatable. I can't relate to any of these narratives.
Tom,
Then you shouldn't watch it. That's all. There's no argument there. There's nothing to talk about. Like, I'm still invested in a lot of the storylines. But if you're not,
well,
then I don't know where to go from there.
No. Look, I'm invested in. I know there's some mystery out there, but I just wish there were characters that I cared about, and I almost cared about Bernard. But then they just BT Dubs, he's not a real character. To where I didn't go too sad. I wasn't sad suddenly because it wasn't like Bernard died. I just went for okay, I'll make sure I'll make sure to stop caring about
not invest.
Bernard.
Maybe you should, either you should stop watching the show, which is probably the logical response.
No.
Or you should just decide to care about robots. Like, maybe you're tricking yourself into not liking the show by thinking, oh, well, that's a robot, so I don't have to care.
Well, then show me a reason to understand.
I don't have the same problem, and I have no idea why, but I care about Dolores. I still care about Bernard. I care about Maeve. In fact, I really cared about what's her face, who got tricked into beating up the fake tech and got killed. I really liked her. I'm sad to see her go.
Right.
I know they're all robots. I still liked them.
Let's do a test. Let's do a test.
I actually agree. I agree with Tom. But go ahead. What's your test?
Here's a test. Let's say the opening of next episode begins with Dolores dusting off an old box, and she sees the words TNT, and then one of the Ghost Nation shoots it, and she explodes. Do you feel shock,
bow and arrow,
horror, disgust, surprise? Yes. Okay, all right.
In
Next
fact, it's
episode.
one of the reasons I don't think the Man in Black is William, because he treats her with such horror early on that I'm like, no, William wouldn't do that unless he changes, but maybe he does. But yeah, no, I see, it's working for me that oh, Maeve has got thoughts of her own. She's a real person. Dolores is realizing that she's been tricked and treated awful. And it's not okay to be treating these sentient beings this way because they've made them sentient. And I feel for them.
So I agree with Tom in that, to me, the most interesting version of this story is us investing humanity into the hosts, right? And I think that there are, and this is largely to me carried by the work of the actors, who I think that the acting on this show is superb.
Fantastic.
I think that really the mystery is not bad, and the mythology is not bad. The world is fantastic and exquisite. If anything, I do think that there is just a question problem. It's not to me necessarily that they're robots that I can't invest or they're NPCs and so now I don't care. It's just that the show has done a fairly poor job, in my opinion, of keeping too many questions out there and replacing suspense with confusion. And that's something that I think when Lost was at its worst, we were just confused. You were not necessarily in suspense. So it's not like right now there's somebody in HQ, like maybe the writer guy who literally has nothing else to do but grouse, who's like, oh my God, I know
Kmart guys, Baltar.
Yeah, Kmart Baltar, that he's like, I know that if somebody were to get to this part of this story, there would be ramifications beyond what we can currently handle, even with the ammo that we have now.
Sure.
And so now the juxtaposition is Dolores's journey of self-discovery versus the greater health of the park or these other people that we either care about or don't care about. I think the show is just always, and this is, I think, the problem with is it dual timelines? Like, are they all hosts? Like, I don't know. And now we're in this who's going to play Jimi Hendrix and become a host next? Like, we just have too many possibilities. And for me, I'm going to watch this thing throughout the whole thing. I've been on this seesaw thing all day about it, but it's like, I like this episode because at least it tried to take questions off the table. We know who the board are. We know that they're trying to meddle. They know that they're trying to push Ford to the side. We know that Teresa was culpable in it, and we know Bernard is an extension of Ford right now, but is the most sentient version of a host that we have seen, therefore making Maeve someone that's not as odd as we would have initially thought.
Right.
Because now it's like she's not the only super smart person. There's somebody that is theoretically, intellectually at Ford's level, just under Ford's control. So we don't know what stuff is, but I hope for these next 3 episodes that we are just at a breakneck speed taking questions off the table as opposed to adding more questions and more confusion.
The biggest problem I had in the early episodes was I didn't feel there was a story.
Yeah.
And I've been very pleased to see story come together. And I'm very interested in, okay, when we saw the picture that had Arnold in it and it looked like the robot that plays Ford's dad, was that now we know, well, Bernard was looking at that. Is that because Bernard can't see things that would harm him? Was he actually seeing the right person in that picture? Those are good questions. Those are questions I like because now that I know Bernard's an android, I can start to think about things in a new way. So I think it's slowly getting better at piecing things together. But Justin, I'm entirely with you. It hasn't had enough story, and it's just get really slow in getting it there.
One quick question about the mechanics of the park. Is there a single place in the park? Because I thought it was curious. We spent a long time watching William, go on this overnight, a day and a night train ride to get to some place far away, ostensibly the outskirts of the Western, territories or whatever. And yet also, I didn't buy any of that as feeling remote because I simultaneously have been trained to feel like there's not a single place in Westworld that's not one elevator ride away. Like from anybody, like Ford could literally just at any moment in any place of any map ever. I feel like the Wonkavator could open and out pops Ford.
Ford's got to have a Segway.
Yeah,
he's got to have a Segway, and I want to see Ford's Segway by the end of it. And I want him to be talking about an animal when we see him on it, because that man loves
Sure, but it's but if you want me to feel a sense of scale, and we talked about this when it comes to Game of Thrones does a very good job of setting different color palettes for different places in the world and different types of motivations where each are these individual set pieces. And the moment you're injected in one, you instantly know, I'm rooting for this guy. I'm hoping this guy doesn't screw him over. I want them to achieve blank. I don't have that at all. I can't tell where I am. It's very, I feel very chaotic and just, I don't know, sprung. I don't know.
Here's my one question about William. So William has that big moment on the train with Dolores, and he's like, yo, girl, I got a wife. Like, I can't be doing this on this train right now. And then Dolores is like, whatever, dude. And then she goes there, and then he's like, oh my God, wait, I've just realized I love you. How can I ever go back? It's like,
you're playing a video game.
Well, no,
man.
like, dude, this is $40K a day. Like, at some point, does his credit card just get maxed out, and they just like come parachuting in and be like, next time, buddy, make some more money.
So it's like when you walk off of the of Splash Mountain, and they have the photo instead of the photo of like your moment of panic, they sell you a DVD of that time you fucked Dolores.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I just don't know. Like, all right, so that's kind of a joke, but like, seriously. Is his decision to just stay in the park forever?
I don't know.
Or is it just like, is he just fully invested in the game?
I mean, he doesn't know, man. He'll figure it out later. Love will guide him, Justin.
I mean, it
Love
sounds like
for Dolores.
his brother paid for it, and everybody is kind of like.
I know it's
hooked
wrong,
up.
but we'll figure it out somehow. We'll live on love.
So wait, is that all right? But like, does that mean infinite? And also, like,
Well, not infinite, but like.
he's gonna marry his sister. Like,
He's still got to go home and have the wedding. Yeah.
It's their parents. It's the rich kids' parents that are like gonna possibly like invest or buy Delos, right?
Yeah.
So it's like at some point he's got to go back and like go through with the marriage, right?
Well,
But I think he's like because
You'd
what
be
was
like,
the
get
brother-in-law?
get your sex fiend ex-fiance the hell out of here.
Well, like the whole point of the brother-in-law was like, hey, like get into it, like play the game, and if his part of playing the game is romancing this little blonde lady, then
Oh, I guess no. I understand why he's investing in it.
Yeah.
Like that I get. I just like specifically that conversation. Like it wasn't like no, it was like I can never go back. And like that was what was like.
Well, I mean, I think what he
you-
meant was I can never go back to blindly following orders. I've had an epiphany.
okay.
I can't go back to being the guy
was
who
just
gets
saying
kicked
to hit.
around. Yeah, but also, why are you talking to the robot? It's a robot, man. I don't have these conversations with characters I kill in
I
Grand
feel
Theft Auto
like
5.
well here's one thing that I get Tom's point that like, hey, listen, if these things if you are having a problem investing in robots, then maybe you should think about watching the show, because like that's obviously what they want to do. But here is one thing that I think we're probably going to get. I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to get, man, all the Kotaku 100,000 word think pieces by the time that this show is over, and it's going to be Jonathan Nolan and his wife, whose name I can't remember.
Something
Joy something, don't understand video games in the way that I think a lot of people understand video games. And it's very noble. It's very noble for them to try to tell this story that is evocative of this genre, but I don't know if they get why these things.
No.
Here's the thing. Here's a big. Let me just drop this in and run with it. I do not watch Westworld through the eyes of this is a video game. At all.
How can
and
you
I
not?
believe that Nolan may be writing it that way. It may be like, oh yeah, there's obviously parallels to a video game. But when I watch it, I don't think of it as video game.
So are you... Okay, this is interesting. Let's just talk just about how you feel watching the show. Do you feel like the Man in Black is a bad guy?
Yes.
I have never felt that way. I have felt you're talking to somebody and you watch me play Grand Theft Auto 5 on Rage Select. I have a lot of fun and I cackle as I bazooka everyone around because that's in video game land. And then I go home and I'm a loving husband and father. We've already seen...
Not in video game land.
Not in video game land, right?
Yeah.
But we've already seen... They've already, he's playing the video game as a video game. He's playing a black hat. And they've already made it clear that it's not a moral thing to go white hat or black hat. But then they also have, they've also clearly said, they had one moment where somebody tried to thank Man in Black, your foundation saved the life of, and he goes, shut up, I'm on vacation. Like, that is somebody, like, it's clear he's a good person on the outside.
No, absolutely. But I still, and I don't know if it makes any difference. But I don't think Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan are writing this as a video game allegory, except as side effect.
Well,
and I'm not saying they're
Justin's
I'm not
point.
saying they're got so much blinders on that they don't realize that that's there. but I don't think they're being guided by that. necessarily.
I've not listened to it, but Scott Johnson on Hotline Monday, where we also talked about this today.
Oh, really?
Apparently they did an interview with Fresh Air, and they talked at length about how much open world video games inspire.
take that back.
But even then, I suspect that they're writing it the way you are taking it, Tom, and they're just not aware of the shorthand. They're not aware that the folks who love video games are like, yeah, no, it's like, yeah, we all do that in video games. It doesn't make us bad people.
But I mean, I know that shorthand. But when I look at Westworld, I'm like, oh, but this is real life. These are thinking machines, so it's different. It's not exactly the same. And I think that's one of the central questions of Westworld is, do you, like Logan, go in saying, so they're lifelike? Who the F cares? And you go with that aesthetic of not caring, because whether it's video game or a theme park or whatever, it's not real. Or do you go in like William and say, well, hold on, these are very lifelike things and they seem to have emotions, and maybe I'm being naive, but maybe they deserve more of our respect than they're getting.
I think all of that could be resolved if in the first 7 episodes they'd ever had a moment to say, no, they actually feel. That's what makes them so good at it. You can't.
I feel like
this.
they've had those moments, but obviously they didn't work for you. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that certainly I have seen them react to things, and I have seen them strive and try to be better. And I think that that we are seeing emergent sentient AI, right? And that is something that's important. But I again, this gets back to a story thing, like you said earlier, Tom, that even if I know who I've seen them feel, right now they all kind of have the same goal, and that's like to be something. Like Maeve wants to leave. That's the most we've seen of a goal of one of the hosts, right? There's this hoodoo voodoo like maze thing that Dolores is on, and it's like, okay, well, that's magic right now for all intents and purposes.
Sure.
At the benefit of
it's magic
possibly hiding this dual timeline thing, which again, it's like, I hate to keep bringing it up because it's right now a fan theory, right? Probably a well-educated fan theory, but at the same time, why else am I like, well, is Dolores magic? Is Dolores, psychic? Are there psychic robots in this? And that's where I get to the question thing. It's like, because right now, all of a sudden, William could be a host, and Lee Sizemore, I'm just naming it because we have these things here, like could just shoot lasers out of his eyes, and Maeve could grow wings and like say Autobots roll out, like
yes,
and it'd be fine, like because we don't know, and the world has not, the story has yet to kind of pen in exactly the maximum drama for me.
Right. Well, here's the thing. We are 7 episodes in, and I could say with all honesty, I don't understand. I cannot say with authority who's alive and who's dead. Literally anything could happen to any character, and I would pause to consider, how am I supposed to feel about this? And that seems problematic to me at episode 7.
Yeah, man. Wait, is it 7 or 6?
7.
I believe it's 7.
So wait, so we have
yeah, dude.
3 more left?
We're more than halfway through the season, and I still don't know how to feel about literally anything happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I like this one. I because at least it to me it took out the morass a little bit. Like I don't know exactly how I feel about the board lady, but like it's fine. She's banging Paolo.
Well, I mean, and this is what I would rather be talking about, which is like, okay, what are these mysteries and what do they mean? And one of those is, who's being built there in this underground room? He's printing out an android. Is it a replacement for her? Are we going to get Android Cullen now?
I assume that's the secret factory that lets us as viewers know that anybody who you might be thinking about caring about as a human could at any moment turn out not to be human.
So you think definitely that he's printing out a new Teresa Cullen there?
I don't know what he's printing out, but also I know that now I can't trust.
You don't
anyone.
care about any of it.
Well, I now feel a barrier to keep from caring because I don't want to be a sucker.
Well, are you a sucker for are you a sucker for caring about the robots though? Like they have this sentience and they believe that they're real, and then they have all of these like memories
like
of
pets.
being used.
Well,
and-
I mean,
and abused
Yeah, no, I'm
forever
sorry.
and
I
ever.
don't feel empathy for the infinitely spawnable, immortal, always, ignorant of their past automatons.
But that's the thing, is they're becoming less ignorant of their past. They're
well,
remembering
when they get
things.
there, maybe I'll care. But we're not there yet.
But that was the Maeve story.
But that's
The Maeve story was like when Homeboy's like, with a half a sandwich hanging out of his mouth, like, oh no man, it's a suicide mission, and she's like, I've died a million times, I'm great at dying, I'll kill you if you don't die. I'm Chuck E. Cheese, I own this pizza parlor.
Yes, exactly.
Like that was that. It was okay. Let's erase the ignorance and see where that power goes. What Bernard does, and I think in terms of this story, is again say, no, Maeve is not the most powerful. We right now think that the most powerful, up until that moment that Bernard kills Teresa, Maeve is the most powerful host that we have ever seen. She walked in, she got all of her dials turned up, and now she has, dexterity, charisma, and intelligence to beat the band.
And we know this because we watched him swipe his finger up
Exactly.
on each of those on a menu.
And it took many credits and dust to do so. But now we know that Bernard is far more powerful and far more intelligent than Maeve, because he controls basically the keys to the kingdom when Ford is not around. So Ford can do other things. He has made this person redundant. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's I think that there is push forward on that.
No, yeah, there is a rebellion narrative that could work very, very well, but you have to explain to me what the two sides are. And we're episode 7. I still have no idea.
And that I absolutely agree with. To me, the best version of this story is the fact that they're all hosts and that this is a overclass underclass situation. And that is now we are talking about robots that keep other robots down, because that is what they have been taught, and they are all either they've all been replaced bit by bit by Ford. If Ford has replaced himself at some point is also a possibility. I can in my head draw out where I think they could be going, but even then it's like, this is my frustration. My frustration is that either I feel like I'm too ahead of the show, or I just hope that every time that they set up another question based on a question, that they're just paying
here's
their bills with their
another
credit card.
here's an emotional Turing test for you. Is there a single character that if next episode it turned out they were a robot, you would have any feeling other than?
No, I would actually like it if some characters were revealed as robots. I would have excitement if Ford was revealed as a robot. If William and the Man in Black were revealed as robots, like I'm cool. Again, like I'm cool with that happening.
Yeah.
In fact, I want it to happen, so we're not like, oh wait, are they not? I mean, again, take questions away so I can invest more.
Interesting. Tom, what say you?
I say we move on to Justified.
All right. Hey, fast on Justified. I watched it. I liked it a lot. I remember liking it a lot, but I watched it last night, and details are a little bit sketchy. I remember it turns out that the girl was being hidden by the new sheriff, so even though he was elected under the thumb of Boyd Crowder, I guess, he's got a real heart of gold for a corrupt sheriff.
No, he's hiding Ellie Mae because he knows she knows something, and he wants to get it on Boyd.
Oh, wait. He wants to
have something on Boyd, so he has more leverage against him.
Okay, all right, fine. Also, wacky. Two characters get stuck in an elevator. Only the elevator is a bunch of crazy hillbillies.
The Hill People.
Yeah.
The Hill People was a little weird. The search for Drew Thompson suddenly accelerating because Raylan was motivated not to let Arlo get out of jail was stretching plausibility. But at least at the end, he didn't come away with Drew Thompson. He just found more information on where to go to find Drew Thompson.
Oh, this is the Arlo in jail season?
Yeah. Oh, that
Arlo
was the
is
other
in
part.
jail,
Is that
yes.
we do see Arlo briefly, and they're all like, "Yeah, sorry, hey, awkward, Raylan. We're totally gonna let Arlo off for everything in exchange for what he knows, so we can get other people and throw him in jail."
Yeah. Though this is the Mystery Man season, right?
Yeah. Which, by
Drew
the way,
Thompson.
we're halfway through the season now. And we've had 3 guys that I thought were going to be the next supervillain, and then they all die. You know,
Keep faith. This
Okay.
one, this season's got it.
Okay,
It's got
right
it
on.
like that.
See,
All
this is what Westworld needs, is Justin to be all like, guys, stick with it. I know how it turns out. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah. No.
I already watched it. It's great. Don't worry. So yeah, I mean, this was just Raylan showing what he can do when properly motivated. That's kind of the way I took this episode.
What I did really love about this season was that it kind of got back to a little bit more of that Elmore Leonardy sort of like like, hey, we can just go whole episodes where it's just them sort of being just like awesome badass people doing awesome badass things.
Sure.
And it's got its own story. I think it resolves itself very, very well, in my opinion. So, like, I think that this was something where it's like I think that they wanted to do a season where they took, listen, you can only have what's her face fall in love with Boyd and fall in love with Raylan so many times. You can only have Raylan go through so many women that, like, you're like, hey, look, Raylan, you're a hard drinking, hard punching asshole. Like, I think we get it at this point. And you only have him and Arlo have so many problems. So this, I think, was a season where they wanted to mythologically sort of take their foot off the gas a little bit and just tell, like, a rad Southern, like, hard drinking crime story.
Speaking of rad Southern hard drinkers, Win Duffy, Win and Duffy as hell, still kicking ass, enjoying Win more and more.
You can't spell win without win in Duffy. The way I put it. And don't forget, at the very end, he goes back to Josiah Cairn and says, you sent me up the hill, but Drew Thompson isn't there. Oh, wait, you're just a severed foot. Crap. What happened to you?
Man, there's some. I'm just saying, stuff's going down in Clay Class in this season.
Yeah.
That's
All
right
right,
under your nose.
We'll be back with more Spoilerin time next time. Thank you so much to Justin Robert Young. If you want to hear more of his thoughts, Hotline Monday, right?
Hotline Monday. Find it on Twitter every Monday afternoon. Me and Scott Johnson take your calls about all the hot TV and movie and comic book and rad stuff of the last week. It gets into weird meandering territory, but it is all programmed by you guys. So go ahead and listen every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on DiamondClub.tv.
Thanks, everybody. We'll spoil you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.